Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more.
Welcome in, everybody. Happy Thursday to you on KFH. This is Sports Daily. I am Jacob Albracht alongside Tommy Castor. Jad Chambers producing for us. Man in that IHOP hotline. Glad to have Jad back today here. It's brought to you by IHOP. You can visit IHOP and try your new If movie-inspired menu flavors like Blues Dazzleberry Jr. Combo. Glad to be with you on this Thursday. The Royals right the ship. Now they can split the series with some day baseball. We'll get into all things Royals. Might look ahead a little bit in these NBA playoffs, the series. Is it going to get interesting? I think we're kind of in the middle. But there was a lot going on yesterday that we want to get into today, including that NBA draft deadline, which impacts both KU and K-State to some degree. So we'll have that. Speaking of the K-State side of it, we'll have Tim Fitzgerald in, our K-State insider, coming up top of next hour. KU solidifies Travis Goff's future in the state of Kansas at Kansas University of Kansas, as they give him a big raise, a big extension. No surprise there, but it did happen. The Chiefs have another player arrested, and a very strange story, a player I have not heard of, but there are some weird circumstances there. We'll get into the news of that a little bit later as well in the program. Again, that IHOP hotline's open for you at 869-1240. You can also leave us your comments on our video stream, which you'll find at Facebook, at YouTube, and on X. We're eventually, I'm told, Tommy, going to get a text line opening up, so maybe even easier for you to get in touch with the program on things that we'll give away, which we'll do today. We'll give away a little HTO, iced tea, and coffee. So what'll happen down the road, and we're working on this. Right now, we'll still call in to do it, but eventually those contests, we'll do text winners. It's really easy at that point to see the order of which people text, all those things. So we'll have details on that as we make our way through. You can also just reach out to us directly on X. Tommy and I both there. And of course, we appreciate you if you're listening to our stream audio-wise at kfhradio.com. Tommy, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Happy Thursday. Good to be here this morning. I know that, as always, a lot to get to, and looking forward to talking to Tim Fitzgerald this morning about everything going on K-State related. And you mentioned Arthur Kaluma and everything going on there with the draft decision for him. So, yeah, it's a busy show, and looking forward to jumping right in.
It is. I'm happy to be getting my voice back. It's we're making progress. Hopefully I can. I promise I'm not trying to, seduce you in these baritones. It's the only range I've got. It's the only range I've got right now, Tommy. See, there's a good example.
Hey,
if I mess around,
I've been there.
If I mess around, it bites me. But we're getting there. Glad to be here with you. The Royals get the win. We'll get to the Royals in a minute. I think the news we got to start with, though, is the Travis Goff extension from yesterday. It looks like about doubling his money here. Goes from one of the lower paid ADs in the Big 12 to one of the more highly paid ADs. If that sounds surprising, I don't think that it is. For a long time, when you don't have a great football program, there's sort of a trickle down there. And now, with the success and the resurgence of a football program, administration is going to feel that a little bit. I think there's always been a perception, and it's probably a lot of reality, if not all reality, Tommy, that basketball is sort of self-sufficient for the most part, right? Bill Self's got that and just sort of handles everything. But football is where attention has to go. And Travis Goff has hired Lance Leipold. He's gotten him at least one extension, if not two. I can't even remember at this point. You've got a major facilities upgrade. They made a facilities upgrade under Goff at Allen Fieldhouse, and, of course, now the big one out at Booth. You've had back-to-back bowl games. All of these things, it makes a ton of sense. You love to see it if you're a KU fan. I don't know anybody on the planet that isn't on board with what Travis Goff has going right now at KU. They are clearly doing the right things in the NIL because they're probably the most dangerous NIL team in basketball, and they've had some highly touted football signings. It is all going well now, and Goff has a lot to do with all of it.
It's been a long time since the University of Kansas has had such a stable and solid athletic director leading the entire athletic department. You think back to some of the names that they've had in place before. Shayan Zinger was there for a while and was, I think, mediocre at best in a lot of different regards. And there were certainly things that I know there were priorities for him that he didn't get accomplished during his time at Kansas before he was fired, due in large part to the number of football coaches that he hired and then fired. Then same thing with Jeff Long. Most recently, that was a disaster of a hire, basically from day one, scandals and just a lot of issues. And again, like not getting football back to where it needed to be and the Les Miles hiring and all of that, the ESPN documentary, like just a black eye on the athletic department. They needed somebody to come in and not only right the ship, but also provide stability and calmness and just a sense of leadership where, maybe past athletic directors were very visible and wanted to be on camera and wanted all of the accolades and the attention and all of that, where Travis Goff is like, look, I've got work to do. Like, we have things that we have to turn around. We have to turn it around now. And I think that, just as much as Lance Leipold has been responsible for the on the field turnaround for Kansas football and the success that we've seen in recent years, Travis Goff is the architect of a lot of that behind the scenes, things that go unseen that people don't necessarily know about. He's put Lance Leipold in a great position to continue to coach at Kansas, to retire there, to fend off other universities that wanted to poach him. And so I think, credit definitely goes to Travis Goff for stabilizing football, but then also making sure that basketball, which has always been the cash cow at Kansas, continues to be, in a very successful place under Bill Self. So all in all, I've got nothing but great things to say about what Travis Goff has done at the University of Kansas. And I think this extension and raise is absolutely well-deserved.
What's always been wild to me about major college administration, like it just doesn't matter what else you do if you don't get your coachings right. It's irrelevant, honestly. Like, we can love all these things that have happened everywhere. K-State's no different. Like, you can love all the things Gene Taylor has done, but the reality is, if Lance Leipold isn't the coach and they're not, that program isn't doing what it's doing the last 3 years, Travis Goff may be gone by now, no matter what else he's done. And that's what's wild about to me, like, it's always really difficult to evaluate administrators within an athletic department because it's so tied to the success of the most important sports programs, the revenue drivers. Everything else, it's like icing on the cake. It's like they almost don't even get to have their true impact until they know they have the right coaches in place in the first place. And so it's always this perfect storm, right? And Travis Goff is going to have a lot of success because Lance Leipold's having a lot of success. Gene Taylor is having a lot of success because Chris Kleiman and then now Jerome Tang, we think, is having a lot of success. But if those coaches aren't successful, these administrators don't make it. I mean, the history shows us that.
Yeah, I do agree to an extent, but what makes this different, and I think that you can find really recognizable places that Travis Goff has had a significant impact on that program without Lance Leipold. And you look at the commitment and the investment that Travis Goff and the athletic department made to not only Leipold, but to his staff, to the program entirely. Lance Leipold's contract, and I don't have the terms in front of me, but I know just from memory, there were different things in that contract that talked about the new stadium and how there was a certain timeline that needed to be taken care of by. And there needed to be an additional compensation pool for his assistant coaches. There needed to be additional NIL revenue and opportunities for his players in that program and trying to find ways to attract new players with NIL. Those were all things that are in Lance Leipold's contract that Travis Goff put in there. And it's up to Travis Goff as the athletic director to deliver on the terms of that contract if he wants to keep Lance Leipold. I do agree that generally speaking, it is difficult to fully assess the success or failure of an athletic director because they're not involved in the on-the-field wins and losses.
Well, but they just don't get a chance.
In this case with Travis Goff, because Kansas football was so far down, there are identifiable benchmarks that are Travis Goff's
Absolutely.
responsibility that he's been able to deliver on. And so you can,
There's no question.
I think you can assess the way that his tenure has gone so far in a different way than maybe you would be able to do with with other athletic directors.
And I think Travis Goff has been unbelievable. I like how front facing he is. I think he's done an incredible job. I cannot honestly imagine a job being better done than what he's done. He's done fantastic. He deserves this raise. What I'm saying is, can you imagine if Lance Leipold doesn't go to back-to-back bowl games?
Sure.
We don't even get the opportunity a lot of times to see administrators do their thing because they don't last long enough because the coaches don't work out. So all of these other, unreal things that they have to take on. And now with fundraising, and you got to raise this money and you got to do all of these things. If you don't get the coaches right, it doesn't matter what else you do. And so that's such a big part of it. And I do think about this a lot. Like, how many great administrators haven't made it because the coaching part, didn't work out in the short term. And then you don't even get to see them do their thing. And so it always does take this, perfect storm of things to create these long lasting relationships, which is, I think is where universities like really hit their stride. And we've seen that down the road at K-State now with Gene Taylor, right? Where you've got this long-term relationship, this synergy. We had the really rocky thing with Naquan Tomlin and stuff there this year, which was why I think everybody was nervous. But it's been this longer, but it's taken success on the field. It's taken contract extensions. It's taken all these other things to happen with it. And then you get your true, like, I don't want to call it a golden era, but it is sort of a golden era. And then I think now with Leipold turning down jobs, getting contract extensions, and this, you'll have the same thing at KU. And that's awesome to have both of those things happening here in the state of Kansas as we go into a football season, Tommy, where it will be most likely, all if all goes according to plan, probably the best collective football season we've seen in a generation, if not ever, potentially. And that is just awesome from afar. We can ask Tim Fitzgerald this. I'll bet you he's ecstatic that Goff got this extension. I'll bet you, even as a K-State guy that loves to fight with KU fans and do all the things that Fitz does, which is why we love him. I'll bet you, and we'll ask him today. I'll bet you he loves that this happened because it's awesome. It's great for all of it. It's great for all of us, like to have all of these things good happening and to be able to now know that they'll keep happening because you have some length on this thing. And that's what a big contract extension like that will do for you.
I think that also a difference with Travis Goff compared to other athletic directors is that the objective when he came in was absolutely clear. And yeah, he's the athletic director over all of the programs at the university, but he was hired for football, right? Like that's
no question.
In the same way that Jeff Long was. It was the wrong hire, but Jeff Long sat on the board of the CFP, for a number of years. He was very well connected in the college football world. It was the wrong hire for a number of reasons, but that was the thought at the time, was he can come in and resurrect football. And so for Travis Goff, I'm sure that like some people probably would look at that and say, man, like it's been a dumpster fire. Kansas football is lagging behind. That there's a chance with conference realignment and TV rights deals that the entire university could be left behind as everything starts to shift and change. There was a real fear there. And just with that program being a dumpster fire for so long, facilities lagging behind, all of that stuff, I could definitely see why it wouldn't be an appetizing or appealing job for a lot of different people. I'm sure in Travis Goff's mind, I don't know, but I'm guessing in his mind, his thought was there's nowhere to go but up from here. So let's just dive in and let's make it happen. And so you've got athletic directors at other universities that their focus is probably in a lot of cases going to be split in a bunch of different ways. Maybe there are several different things that need to be fixed or taken care of. And not that there aren't other issues at Kansas or other things to manage, but basically the lion's share of the focus for Travis Goff has had to be on football. And simply just because of the revenue impact when you don't have a competitive football program in a power conference and the long-term ramifications of that. And so he's had, I think, the benefit of knowing exactly what that what those goals are, what those expectations are. The attention hasn't needed to be super divided in a lot of different ways. And I think he's got a pretty good team around him. But on top of that, he knows it's football, and that's what it has been since he's been there.
And it helps that you don't have to worry about basketball, like
Right.
some people
Absolutely.
do. You just let it go. Like, here's what else I'll say about some of the most successful administrators I've been around. When they know when to get out of the way, right? Like what's Travis Goff going to tell Bill Self, right?
Exactly.
Do your thing.
Yeah.
Let's make sure we're staying in compliance. Like, awesome. Go for it. Let's, when we got to talk about things that
I think
that matter,
the best thing he could probably do, and I'm sure he's done this multiple times with Bill Self, is, hey, coach, what do you need? How can I be of
Right.
service to you?
Exactly.
And I think, and that's, I don't pretend to be any kind of, leadership expert or management expert, but I think some of the most effective leaders are the ones that they go into it with a mindset of service, that you are, as the leader, you are to be of service to the people in your care. And so in that regard, I think it's a perfect strategy to work not only with Bill Self, but with all the coaches in that department, of saying, what can I do for you? I'm here to serve you as your athletic director. How can I make your job better? How can I make you and your teams more successful?
And oftentimes that does not happen. You get contention, you get ego battles,
Power struggle,
all of it, which never makes sense to me, right? But that's what you have oftentimes. What I don't think you have, what I loved about it yesterday is that you just feel like everybody's rowing in the same direction. And that's critical, because we're going into this time. The timing could not be better for KU with the changing landscape of all of it. If they had continued to struggle down the road they were struggling on, it was going to be really difficult for KU to maximize on whatever the end game is. Whether I don't even want to say this out loud because I would hate it so much, whether it's a different conference, like whatever it is, whether it's the best Big 12, football needed to be good like right now. And they didn't have any more time to keep down this path. UConn, look at UConn, right? Just you cannot be a great program without football if you're playing football and be one of the major power players. KU can be. New facilities. I mean, you're just trying to position yourself the best you can do it, and winning football. I don't know anymore in the power conferences how you can do it without winning football. And so having winning football right now has never been more important, and they're on the right track, and they're doing all the things they need to do to make sure that the same people are leading them down that road. Lance Leipold first and foremost, obviously, and now Travis Goff. And neither one of those guys have any reason to leave. They don't need to. I mean, money always talks, but money has talked, right? The university has put its support behind these two guys to make sure that football's where it needs to be in this evolutionary time of college athletics, and that's going to matter big time. And Bill Self sticking around helps too, because it lessens the pressure there. You don't have to worry about that right now as you focus on football. So I think good for KU fans. You can chime in on that IHOP hotline 869-1240. We'll come back. We'll talk a little Royals baseball as Seth Lugo does it again. This guy's going to win a dang Cy Young. This is wild. We'll come back with more on that next.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With more than 25 flavors, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite, or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day for half-price cups of tea. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy. have more than 25 flavors. Come try them all for free.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. Sports Daily here on KFH. Glad to be here with you on this Thursday. Tim Fitzgerald, our K-State Insider, coming up top of the hour. We'll get into the NBA draft deadline. As we do there, Arthur Kaluma, just quickly, if you didn't see, Arthur Kaluma pulled his name out of the draft. He's now in the portal. Johnny Furphy, the other big name we were watching, is staying in the draft. So no surprises with either one of those guys, but we'll talk about the implications as we make our way through. It was not must win by any means, Tommy, yesterday, but it was a really need to win for the Royals. You had Seth Lugo going. You lost with Cole Reagans on the mound the day before. You've got to stop the bleeding. This is what aces do. We told you yesterday that we couldn't figure out why the Royals were getting plus money with Seth Lugo on the mound. It was like, what's the landmine here? I'm missing it. I can't find it. But it wasn't there. The Royals do exactly what you think they would do with Lugo on the mound. They get, a great quality start. The offense finally picks it up a little bit. Nelson Velasquez continues a power surge, which has been a nice development and certainly gives us a reason to think he probably has a spot, even if it's just come in and hit a home run every once in a while, 7 of them on the year for him so far. But, it's a game, Tommy. Like, I don't want to over-explain it. Like, you needed Seth Lugo to come in and shut them down, and that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, I think a couple of things from the game yesterday. Number one, I don't think that you can overstate the importance of Nelson Velasquez and that power surge happening now of all times as you're dealing with a Vinny Pasquantino injury, you're dealing with a Michael Massey injury. So those things I think are extremely important to be able to have somebody else step up from a power perspective outside of the typical suspects of Bobby Witt Jr. and Salvador Perez, both of whom had great games yesterday as well. Salvi had a home run and 2 RBIs.
Yep.
So that's great. You needed another bat to be able to step up in the absence of those 2 injuries. So that's really, really great. And the timing on that is perfect for Nelson Velasquez. And Seth Lugo, what more can you say? He's the best pitcher in the American League. There's really not another pitcher that is pitching at the level consistently that Seth Lugo is. And so I know that there are probably going to be other pitchers that get more attention, and I understand that. But at the same time, from a actual objective perspective, just look at the stats. Nobody is pitching better in the American League than Seth Lugo is.
Yeah, I mean, the other guy that you would look at is Tariq Skubal, but they beat him. Heads up. I mean, those are the two guys right now in the American League. Luis Gil, who most of us hadn't heard of before this year, is also off to a really, really nice start this year. But Lugo, because of his consistency, has been better. He's got more innings than those guys. His everything but one basically this year has been a quality start. It's been wild to see it, and that's what they have to have. And Ken just brings up a good point, and I'm going to look at this, and we appreciate that. Ken points out that Vinny Pasquantino is back in the lineup today, reading my mind literally, because the very next thing I was about to get to was Vinny Pasquantino. They said after the game, after he banged legs with Byron Buxton, that it was going to be day-to-day. He was out of the lineup yesterday. We've talked about the good fortune with injuries this year for the Royals. Pasquantino being gone would be a big problem, but I have not seen that lineup out yet. I'll take Ken's word for it if he's back in the lineup today, because it's a noon first pitch, so that stuff will come down here pretty quick. That's big news because, again, I talked about this with Paul yesterday. Maybe the most, let's call it the second most remarkable thing that's happened for the Royals this year outside of, the starting pitching has been the good fortune with injury. They've just been fortunate right now with injury, and I think they're going to need to be. I think it emphasizes, what they need to do potentially to bring other players in as a just in case. Like maybe we look at the trade deadline and say, okay, yeah, veteran bat, but maybe it's veteran bat that can play first base in the outfield, veteran bat that can be a utility player of sorts, because I do think as you're planning for the next phase of this season, you do have to begin to think about what happens if we have an injury, what happens if we lose, not necessarily a specific player, but, a spot, right? Who can we get in here? It's great to see Pasquantino there. That could have been bad. I mean, that was a pretty bang, like everybody held their breath collectively. That could have gone real wrong, but it does sound like maybe it was just a bruise. And it's just like like all of us, you got to just give it a day, which is what they did yesterday, hopefully. And that's all it'll take.
Yeah, I've not seen the lineup for today's game. I honestly wouldn't be offended if they sat him, if he didn't play, even if he's ready to come back and play. It's a day game on the road, the getaway day, before the Royals head back for the weekend series against the Padres. So I wouldn't mind resting him one more day, giving him another
bruise,
day.
He's not.
You're not
going to hurt a bruise.
I'm saying, like, if you are maybe even on the fence about, whether or not he's ready to go, just let him sit this final game of the series, have him ready at home this weekend, and get him ready and revved up for the big series in the middle of next week against the Guardians.
I think I'd like to see him play. I think I might be on the other side of that. I think I might want him to press, because I do think there's a little press in this game today. Not as much as there would have been had they lost yesterday, but you still would love to split this series and not give 3 games up in the standings to the Twins over the course of 4 days. I mean, that's the other thing with this game today, and it's Brady Singer, is that you can either have conceded 3 games to the Twins, right? Or 0 games to the Twins, that's a pretty big swing. And granted, now it doesn't matter now what's happened in the past. It's all about what happens today. But if the Pasquatch is just like, my leg hurts, you can't hurt a bruise. If it really is just a bruise, he's not going to hurt anything. If he's not 100%, I might not want to see him go. But if he thinks he can get in the box and give you the same at bat he'd give you one way or the other, you can let him DH today, potentially, and I'd be okay with that. But it is a big game for them today. I forget who's going for the Twins. I'll look that up here. But Brady Singer's on the mound with a pretty big opportunity. He has not been, Seth Lugo consistent, but he has contributed certainly to the consistency overall of this rotation, which has been a big part of what they do this year.
Yeah, and I think that knowing that you've got Brady Singer going today, I know that really my expectation, at least, was that in this series on the road against the Twins, they would, take 3 of 4, and that's not the reality now. They've got the chance, though, to be able to salvage a series split, and then you take 2 of 3, from the Rays before that, then you're right back in that 4-3 road trip that you had brought up at the very beginning of it, that you wanted to see them be at 4-3. They got to win today, to be able to get to that point. Otherwise they'll finish this little mini road swing under 500. And, they've got enough of a cushion, but at the same time, again, they're chasing the Guardians, who, by the way, last night lost a game. It was the first time, I think, in 3+ weeks that the Royals won a game and the Guardians lost a game, and so
I stopped looking.
Yeah. So like, if I'm the Royals, I'm like pulling my hair out. Like, what more do we have to do? And, it had been a little bit of a slide, recently for Kansas City, and with the Guardians continuing to win, that's not something that you can really afford. So I want to see them be able to hang close enough. And I mentioned this the other day, hang close enough to the Guardians to where you're within striking distance of them when you travel to Cleveland next week. If you can stay 3 games or less behind the Guardians going into that series, then at that point you can really strike while that iron is hot.
And we can all not wait any longer for those two teams to play each other this year. Like, I cannot wait for those two teams to play each other this year. Let me just real quick, and there's other stuff we want to get to. I'm looking ahead to that Cleveland series. If it is, if the pitching stays the way it should, you would have Lugo and Singer and Waka in that series, and I think you would feel pretty good about that. So the pitching, could be fortuitous for the Royals, if everything stays the way it is. We have some other news here. So I'm just seeing, and we're going to talk about this when we come back. We'll take a break because I just can't believe some of the things we're seeing with these NFL wide receivers. Now, Jalen Waddle is paid a ton of money. Did you see the Nico Collins deal that he got? Receivers in this league are getting paid right now. And the Chiefs have totally zagged the other direction. What is going on there? We'll get into that. We're going to talk more about these NBA draft decisions. Tim Fitzgerald coming up, and Royals fans, we'll get you a little more on that matchup tonight. We'll look at it maybe a little more specifically, maybe any betting angles, things like that as we make our way through. Don't forget, you can watch us on our video stream, which is available on Facebook, on YouTube, and on X right now. Let's give something away here, Jad. We're glad to have Jad back. Let's celebrate with some free tea and coffee from HTO. That's good for the West or East Wichita location, or in Derby. We'll do the first caller right now on the IHOP hotline. Get you a free tea and a free coffee on us here at Sports Daily. Good luck, everybody. We'll come back. What in the wide world of sports is going on with these NFL receivers getting big bags? That's next on Sports Daily.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With more than 25 flavors, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite, or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day for half-price cups of tea. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy. have more than 25 flavors. Come try them all for free.
IHOP giving guests a whole new reason to smile about pancakes with the new Pancake of the Month offering, white chocolate raspberry pancakes. Tommy, how do you take your pancakes, by the way?
I take them in my mouth and chew them up and swallow them. And
just kind of whatever it is, you're down with all of it.
Care. I mean, I'm a traditional butter and syrup guy.
Not even butter. Just like, just a regular old pancake with syrup. But I like, a little crispy on the outside. You know what I mean? Like when they're thinner and flatter. I don't like the thick ones as much. Although I will say I grew up on like Bisquick pancakes from my mom. And so now if she's cooking up those thick old, then I'm in, and she does sometimes. But try out those. I don't usually get down with the ultra like crazy sweet.
No,
whatever.
I don't want
pancakes.
them to be a dessert. I mean, I'll do syrup,
yeah,
for the sweetness, but I don't know. I mean, occasionally maybe a chocolate chip pancake if I feel really wild, but that's not all the time. Like maybe once in a while.
My wife and kids sometimes like the wild ones, and so that hearing that white chocolate raspberry pancake, I'm sure that's amazing.
If I'm feeling real crazy, throw some peanut butter on there and call it good. A peanut butter.
I've never tried that.
Pancake.
I'm sure I'd like that.
Yeah.
By the way, okay, so we're gonna say that this segment is brought to you by Crestview Country Club because I just remembered something. Tommy and I were both at they had a big Memorial Day pool party, and so we're both at the pool party. It's like buffet style, burgers, hot dogs, some sides. I think it was potato salad and beans and some other stuff. So we're all hanging out. We're doing our thing, and I bring my plate over to Tommy just to mess with him a little bit because I didn't even do this intentionally. It was just happening, and I was loving it. And I was like, oh wait, my baked beans and potato salad were they were merging, and so I'm swirling them up, just like slopping that stuff up as much as I can, like give me some of that, I'm gonna dip my hamburger in it and like get after it. And so I took it over to Tommy and I'm like, hey, what do you think about this right here? And I'm showing him, and he just like, I can just see like the skin crawling.
I was visibly
away from you.
I was visibly uncomfortable by that.
But I'm telling you that like that baked bean potato salad concoction was delicious. Like you could put that in a bowl and mix
Ugh.
it together, and it would have been fine.
In
for
the
me.
meantime, so what I did with the buffet was I went and got a hamburger, made my hamburger. I put some chips on the side because I knew that the chips weren't going to get into anything and the burger wasn't going to get into the chips. And then I went back and I got another plate and I put potato salad on that plate. That way I would make
Nope.
sure that the potato salad didn't get on anything.
So what you do is you take those chips, you put them on the burger. You take the bun off, you put the chips, you make
Why?
like a layer of chips on the burger.
Why
give it a nice
ruin
little
it?
crunch.
There's no need to
Give
ruin
it a
it.
nice little crunch in there. And then you do what I did. When you get toward the end of the burger and toward the end of your beans and potato salad, you mop that stuff up, all that good stuff up with the rest of that. You know, when the burger gets into like that final little morsel where it's like just a real good like finger size, and you just swirl that around, get all that soaked up.
That last bite of burger, then I don't know why you would want to do
why
that.
am I ruining it? I enjoyed the bite of burger more that way.
At a picnic, there's very little that makes for a good fork than like a wavy potato chip for potato salad. It is the perfect
I'm in on that.
For potato
or
salad.
The baked beans,
Yeah,
Chad.
I don't
if you
mind
take those
that.
thick chips and get you a spoonful of the baked beans with the chip, that's sweet. That sweet and salty is a great combo too.
I've done barbecue chips dipped into baked beans. I can do that because I feel like those flavor profiles are similar enough that you can get away with that and that works. But man, if I've got my burger, I don't know why. Like, if you feel like it tastes better, why don't you just put a big old scoop of potato salad on top of your burger?
I absolutely would.
Why didn't you do that? You could have. Why didn't you do that?
I didn't, because I didn't. It was my last bite of burger. Like, I didn't realize, like, oh, I should take some. I would absolutely do that. I love going to the big crazy fancy burger places and trying their off the wall outrageous like whatever on top of a hamburger, because usually it's incredible. Like a mac and cheese spoonful on top of a burger. It's awesome. Like all of it's good. So just, for everyone out there, I got a chance to mess with Tommy out at Crestview and take on one of these concoctions right in front of him.
Meanwhile, I've got 3 plates in front of me, each with a different dish on that one plate.
Nope. It's true buffet style for me. I'm not standing in that line more than one time. I might have stuff on top of salad, like that would just be because I'm not making another trip. Like I need it all at once, and I'm not going to worry too much about it. But give Crestview a call. That pool party, a perfect example of some of the fun that you can have out there with all the different kinds of memberships. Tell them we sent you. Tommy, have you seen? We haven't talked about this at all. Nico Collins happened, and it was probably the most surprising, as he got a 3-year, $72, almost $73 million extension. Amon-Ra St. Brown got the big one. That doesn't really surprise us. A.J. Brown got a big one. That doesn't really surprise us. The Eagles are now paying 2 of those guys because Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown have big extensions. Now the Dolphins are paying 2 of these guys because Jalen Waddle joins Tyreek Hill with a big contract. Jerry Jeudy got paid this offseason with a big contract. Michael Pittman, Mike Evans got another extension. It is wild to see how many of these receivers are getting paid, because still we're, like the top teams out there sort of are doing opposite things. The Chiefs haven't paid a receiver like that. The Bills aren't paying a receiver like that. In fact, they let theirs go. The Bengals aren't appearing to budge with T. Higgins. Like this line of like, do you pay the receivers? Do you not pay the receivers is getting more and more drastic. It's been an interesting shift in the league. I mean, I think some of these players, you can't let them go. Justin Jefferson's going to get a massive deal. CeeDee Lamb's going to get a massive deal. But is it the right way to go? I don't know. It's wild.
It's interesting to watch the different teams and their different philosophies on all of it. And we've been talking forever, and everybody knows that the Chiefs are not in the camp of paying wide receivers.
The Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes. Like, it's almost not even fair, right? Like, it's not.
We know they're not going to go out and sign a wide receiver to a big contract. We know that if they have a superstar wide receiver when he's up for free agency, they're not going to match market value. That's just not the strategy that they take. But there are other teams that follow similar paths, maybe not to the full extent that Kansas City does, but take a look at the Bengals, with everything.
That's what I mean.
Like they're in that camp right now with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, where, they're not willing to budge right this second. And neither one of those guys have shown up for OTAs right now. And so watching that kind of play out and what they're going to do, and maybe in their minds, it's, hey, we've got Joe Burrow, kind of in the same way with the Chiefs. Hey, we've got Patrick Mahomes. But then other teams have different philosophies, and Miami now is one of them with Jalen Waddle, and you mentioned Nico Collins, and some of these other teams that are signing wide receivers to big contracts. Justin Jefferson is going to be next in line, more than likely to be the guy that gets a huge bag of money. So it's interesting watching what teams decide and how they go about the wide receiver position. And what I find really interesting about all of this is I'm not sure there's ever been a time where the wide receiver talent pool is as deep as it is right now in the National
That's
Football
what
League.
Makes it.
There are so
that's
many
what
wide
makes
receivers
me wonder,
that are out there.
right? Does that make less sense to sign one to a big deal? I don't know. The Bengals aren't going to let Jamar Chase walk. The Vikings aren't going to let Justin Jefferson walk. The Cowboys aren't going to let CeeDee Lamb walk. The only team that I can remember that made that sort of, well, there's been two, like this bold move, are the Titans with A.J. Brown when they traded him, and the Chiefs with Tyreek Hill. Otherwise, teams are consistently keeping those top guys. I suppose the Packers made that call with Devontae Adams. In fact, I don't suppose they did. They did. But he kind of wanted out, right? So that was a little bit different. I don't think A.J. Brown was asking out of Tennessee. I don't think Tyreek Hill was asking out of Kansas City. They just made those calls more often than not. And sometimes multiple times, teams are paying the receivers. We'll see how this works. I'm curious because I'm with you. I don't know. Like, obviously, you're not going to let Justin Jefferson walk away if you're the Vikings now, especially with a rookie quarterback. There's never been more good receivers either. So, like, after this upper echelon, it's almost like the cost seems to be driven down, which is how the Chiefs get Hollywood Brown, by the way. It's a very interesting dynamic that's happening. So I wanted to get that in because we just got one. All right, we're going to come back. We'll start hour number 2 with Tim Fitzgerald. We've got draft decision news to get to with Fitz. I do want to get his take from a rival's perspective on Travis Goff's extension. Lot to get to with Fitz. We'll do that next. We'll get more into the Royals. The Chiefs have another player arrested. We haven't touched on that yet. And all of these draft decisions that don't pertain to K-State. Jackson Robinson, everyone watching for the BYU guy that KU apparently was in on. I don't even think he made a decision on the draft. At least he didn't announce one, so we don't even know what he's doing. We'll get all of it caught up in hour number 2. Don't go away. Jad Chambers producing for us. Back in. Glad to have Jad back. I'm Jacob. He's Tommy. We'll see you on the other side.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With more than 25 flavors, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day for half-price cups of tea. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy. We have more than 25 flavors. Come try them all for free.
Is Sports Daily with Jacob Albracht and Tommy Castor.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. Glad to be here with you on this Thursday. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor, Jad Chambers producing. He's got that IHOP hotline under control for us. It is brought to you by IHOP. You can visit IHOP and try the new If movie-inspired menu flavors like Blues Dazzleberry Jr. Combo. Jad will have Tim Fitzgerald on that hotline for us here in just a little bit. Let's get caught up on these draft deadlines, Tommy, just to kind of catch everybody up. So it's always very confusing when these come down. When do players have to enter their names, pull their names? So last night was the deadline to come back out of the draft or to stay in basically and forfeit your college eligibility, essentially. So what we saw is sort of what we expected. We saw Johnny Furphy stay in the draft. That's where our heads have been on that for a long time. I think that a lot of the moves you saw Bill Self making without anybody saying it out loud told me that he's not going to come back. Because if there was any indication he would come back, Bill Self was not going to fill his spot. I think he would have loved to have Furphy back. So I think as he was making those moves, it was getting clearer and clearer that Furphy was going to stay. And Arthur Kaluma does come back, but enters the transfer portal. Or I guess he was already in the transfer portal, but now he's back in that mystery of the transfer portal. So he's there. And then the other one everyone's sort of watching is this Jackson Robinson guy out of BYU, because he was, I think, a target for KU a little bit, but he didn't say what he was doing. So I don't think we honestly know. So those were the big three we were watching yesterday. But Kaluma is back in college basketball. Will he play in Manhattan? Perfect timing to bring in our K-State insider, Tim Fitzgerald, publisher, GoPowerCat.com. Fitz joins us as he does each and every Thursday. We always appreciate it, and good timing, Fitz, because what's the latest on Kaluma? It sure seems like and we got a Kaluma fan in the background there. It sure seems like, Fitz, that Kaluma is not going to be back at K-State to me, but what are the chances, would you say?
dogs are excited I'm on the radio. With the draft
yeah, they are.
coming right when I got on. Hey, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know, and I don't think K-State knows. They expected him to back out of the draft. He wasn't getting quite the feedback, that you would want if you were going to stay. But now trying to climb into the mind of a young player. And also, you just don't know what other schools, how they're reacting, how they value him. Maybe there's a program out there that finds itself in a real pinch, didn't quite get the players out of the portal it wants, and maybe is willing to throw a lot of money at Arthur Kaluma. Now, it's a really smart move by Art to do this, to open up his options. K-State would love to have him back, but, he's on the open market now, and we'll see what happens.
Let's say that he does return to Kansas State, Fitz, and obviously he's got enough talent where, he'll be an immediate difference maker for this team like he was a year ago. But knowing some of the new faces with the Wildcats coming in, I mean, usually when any player commits to a university out of the transfer portal, there's some kind of ripple effect. Do you anticipate if Kaluma does return to Kansas State that anything else with that program and the players that are currently there will change?
No, I don't. Well, heck, he'd only be the fourth returning player.
Yeah.
On the roster. It's kind of crazy. What happens is they get incredibly athletic because he was the best athlete on the team last year, and they've added a lot of pieces with emphasis on the athleticism. They would be a small, but really wide open and bouncy team. They'd be a lot of fun to watch. That would leave them with one scholarship, and I'd hope they'd go after a big man with that. Just someone to add some depth. And I think they're being patient on that. They picked up Will McNair in August last year as a grad transfer because he got somewhere and didn't like it and got back on the market. So I think they'll be a little cautious with that last one because they need some little more frontline depth. But boy, they're going to be able to run, 3 or 4 really athletic guys out on the floor to go with a big man and a point guard, and the point guards are athletic too. So it's going to be a fun team to watch. With or without Art, it just gets magnified, multiplied with Art.
So, okay, let me. You say K-State would love to have Kaluma back, right? They could see him as a fit. That's what I'm trying to get a grasp of. So they would want him. Now it's only the question of what Kaluma wants, right? Like they would welcome him back at this point. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't, I mean, go ahead.
And Art's probably looking at the roster, seeing a lot of guys that can play his spot. So there's a lot of levels to this that make it a little confusing, even for the parties involved. So we'll see what kind of attention Arthur gets out on the open market.
That's you took words out of my mouth. That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like they have been planning for him to not come back by the way that they've attacked the portal in a lot of ways. And so that's why I'm trying to get the sense of what K-State wants, is because it feels like they filled his spot to me.
In some ways, yeah. But he would still probably return as a starter. So that tells you, he's a proven commodity. They know what they've got. He understands what they want. There's a comfort level. He didn't go into the portal because he doesn't like K-State. He just opened up his options. And it does become intriguing. At what level do they want him back? You know what I mean? Are they willing to get in a bidding war for him? I don't know. Are they able to get in a bidding war? I think so. They missed on some of their bigger, what would probably be on the NIL market, more expensive pieces to the roster. They went out and got some guys that are really good and bouncy and athletic and can shoot and hopefully turn the ball over less. And this is going to be an open court team that I think players run in and out of the lineup. So, it's going to be very interesting. But people are going to want Arthur Kaluma on their roster. As he looks out around the country, and now it just comes down to, is there an offer so enticing that he wants it and K-State can't match it? Well, that's the market. It's impossible to predict sometimes.
Well, and that's the really interesting thing about all of this is that there are only so many minutes to go around, and not that
Right.
Kaluma isn't going to command a large portion of those minutes. He would be, but it would end up being at the expense of somebody else. And so, as I'm kind of thinking, who may be the starting five, I mean, is this something where, again, if Kaluma returns, is that going to be at the expense of a guy like Achor or David Gasson or somebody like that? I mean, how do you think that the minutes will then be distributed out?
Brother, I have no idea. I really don't. I go through the same thing. I look at this roster and I think to myself, oh my gosh, this roster is so much more athletic and deep in talent than last year's team. The only kind of Achilles heel right now with this team is the same one they had in year one, but they got to the Elite Eight in year one, was the kind of absence of that big guy that can, at least match the size of a 7-footer like they ran into with the Florida Atlantic player. So it's been interesting to watch them construct this roster because you can see what they want to do. They want to get out and run and jump and just let guys play to a degree. So it's going to be a fun brand, in this conference. It's going to get really tough, but yeah. And in this world, every player wants to play 41 minutes a game. I mean, they want to be out there for every minute possible. And how do you have players not unhappy at some point? It's a real balancing act for coaches.
Well, you point him to UConn, I think, as the back-to-back national champion of what buying in can do for you. And I think the right kind of coaches can get that done. Bill Self's going to have to do it right down the road in Lawrence. They've got more talent, probably, collection of than anybody in the country. They're going to figure with 60% of their starting lineup as guys who've been there for a long time. So they'll have to figure it out too. But I think that, I don't know, maybe there's a world where NIL makes that easier. Like, what are you worried about? You're getting paid the same no matter how many minutes you play. Let's buy in and make this team the best possible. Tim Fitzgerald, go powercat.com publisher, at Life of Fitz on social media. So when we talk about that team, that collection, I wonder, and I'm trying to remember a Baylor team. Like, that was there a Baylor team that played this way? But then I'm like, well, Baylor's usually really good. Well, defensively, what is Baylor a place to look at what this sort of collection? Because it feels like this is a group unlike Jerome Tang has had. I don't think we can compare it to year one. Feels deeper than that team was. I don't think we can compare it to last year. Feels far more talented than that team was. So we don't have a K-State thing under Jerome Tang to compare it to. Maybe we go back to Baylor to look for a team.
Brother, you nailed it. That's exactly what it's after. You look at Baylor teams, even in recent memory, they basically had two big men that they would rotate in the post and, maybe a third on the bench in case there's fouls. And they would play, their four wouldn't necessarily be a, quote, power forward. It might be a shooter. It might be, a real stretch four that plays out on the wing. But their goal is always to get up and down and, maybe be a little bit smaller than their opponent, but defend that daylight out of them. So I think he is exactly doing what you just said, trying to get back to the roots of what was successful at Baylor and replicate it had in a purple version.
It seems like a year ago. It seems like a long time. It really hasn't been that long since Doug McDaniel committed to Kansas State. But with everything that's gone on with the swings and misses in the transfer portal and then the Kaluma news and then the additions that they've gotten and all of that, seems like a eternity ago that Doug McDaniel committed to Kansas State. And as I'm thinking about what he brings to this Wildcats team, I think back to just all the struggles that they had a year ago when it came to turnovers and not really being able to take care of the basketball. I get really excited with the prospect of having more of a sure-handed point guard. And I know it's not just on him, but being kind of the focal point and making sure that the basketball is being taken care of. Do you see that same thing in him? And overall, with the additions that they brought in, not only McDaniel, but the other ones, I would imagine that that's a huge priority, is that this particular iteration of the Wildcats don't turn the ball over like last year's squad did.
Boy, they just hamstrung themselves over and over and over in games. And we saw it even later in the season when you'd think they'd kind of get a grasp on issues, but they'd roar back and get into a game and then have a costly turnover in the final minute and not be able to get over the hump. Doug McDaniel is interesting because he was asked to be basically Tyler Perry last year at Michigan. We need you to be the point guard and score. And he's coming to K-State with the knowledge that hopefully he can be just more of the point guard and go do his thing, and not have to carry the weight and maybe force some shots up because he was the guy that had to do it. So he's excited to kind of fit himself back into the true point guard mold. David Castillo, the freshman coming in, also kind of fits that. So they're going to have a point guard and a bunch of dudes that can get up and down. And again, that could be a really fun brand of basketball. But it comes back to this. You can't hurt yourself as much as they did last year. They were a basketball team that enjoyed self-harm. They couldn't control bad passes, bad dribbling, just some bad fundamentals. And so hopefully they've gone out and addressed that with some guys that are more fundamentally sound basketball players.
Fitz, let's talk a little bit about what's going on down the road there. Always appreciate your perspective. It's very interesting how administrators are evaluated. KU has one in Travis Goff that they just, are just put at the top of the league, kind of where K-State's had Gene Taylor for a while, but it all depends on the success of a football program. But Goff's good for the state of Kansas, right? Never been more important to be good at college football, and he's got them on the right track. I would imagine even in Manhattan, people are pleased to see that, this ship is going to continue to sail in that direction.
I think people are maybe a little surprised with this major career-making project still in progress that this was done. But I think it's also a recognition that he's taken on the fight that nobody else would in that job. And I admire him for that because it got more urgent with every AD that came in and said, nah, I'll put it off to the next guy. I'm not going to work on the stadium. That's too big of a mountain to climb. I don't want to fail. And he's welcomed that. He said, we're going to do it. Honestly, he didn't have a choice at this point. The stadium was in such disrepair that it had to be done, but he didn't back away from it. He's attacked it. And KU athletics as a whole is going to be much better for him having the cojones to go do this project, because a lot of people have decided, not me, man, I'm not doing it. Everyone wants to donate to basketball. I'm not going to make this happen. By God, he's found a way to make it happen. And I think it's admirable what he's done. I don't understand that the title's all at Kansas because they have kind of a different hierarchy over there than Kansas State. But, after sitting down with Travis Goff, he's an exceedingly nice and likable guy. So, I think it is good for the state of Kansas if it's not just about coaches, as we've said. If you've got a really solid AD, which both schools apparently have, you're going to thrive.
I don't know Gene Taylor or Travis Goff. I haven't met either one of them personally, but what I can tell, at least from just what I've read into about them and watched them and the way they carry themselves in public, at least, I feel like both of them are fairly similar in just the way that they carry themselves, as far as being having a sense of stability and calm around them. And, it's a job where there's quite a bit of chaos probably happening all the time around them. And in the case of Gene Taylor, there was the whole issue with the president of the college and Naquan Tomlin and Jerome Tang and all of that. And Gene Taylor, feel like kept a sense of calm and stability through all of that. So as you're relating it to both Taylor and Goff, or just being an athletic director in general, how essential do you think that trait is to running an entire, major university athletic department?
In this day and age, you're dealing with so much money. I mean, the coaches' salaries are outrageous. Trying to keep them happy and in place is a balancing act every year, and doing so without destroying your budget, not being able to pay the bills. Because, we're getting into an era of of college athletics that will demand a lot of fiscal responsibility because there's going to be a lot of money outgoing that hasn't been outgoing in the past with this entire student athlete payment thing, profit sharing, whatever, revenue sharing, I guess it is. And what I like about both of them is they kind of fit their cultures. Jane's a guy that you can sit down and, have a cheap light beer with, and Travis looks like a guy that would enjoy a nice glass of wine. I mean, they kind of fit their cultures in a way that really help out and buy credibility with their fan base. And again, it comes down to this. They're both good people. As much as I joke about wine with Travis, he's from Dodge City, man. He's a Kansan. So it's really comforting to have that kind of leadership. I'll be blunt here. I went through years of John Curry, and while he did a lot of great things for K-State on a personal level, the way he dealt with people and coaches, he was an absolute train wreck. It just brought a lot of tension to the athletic department, and then, kind of waved through all the fan base too.
Well, that's what, look, we talked about this earlier. In order for administrators to work out, their coaches have to be successful, or they never get the chance to do what it is that they're going to do or be good at. I just wonder, as somebody who's followed this league, this state, all of it for as long as you have, if you have some perspective on just how fortunate it appears in the landscape that is changing so rapidly, how fortunate and unusual it is for both schools to seemingly now have that at the same time, at the most important time they probably could have ever had it collectively.
You got it. I mean, if we really are headed to the Super League, both athletic departments and honestly Kansas in particular probably look pretty good, in positioning. They're not in rough times in football, which is the most important thing. And of course, Kansas basketball is something almost nobody else can match, certainly in this conference, to go with everything else they do and athletic department. So it's a cool time for, sports fans, college sports fans in the state of Kansas. Both of these football teams are going to be really good. And knowing the history of the football in the state, having one good was kind of a revelation. Now you got both of them contending for a title. And guys, I got news for all those who say, Oklahoma and Texas are gone. That would have been true with Oklahoma and Texas.
Right.
I think they both would be up there too. So it's a fun time. And, you look back at K-State, Bill Snyder did what they said couldn't be done. You look at Lawrence now, and we're kind of seeing it reoccur in a different way in Lawrence with Lance Leipold. Not just finding a coach that could win. He found a coach that could win, and by God, he wants to stay. I mean, we see it all the time. Coach has a big year, goes, leaves. A&M just did it to Duke. But no, Lance Leipold has stayed, and he wants to stay. Chris Kleiman wants to stay here. Well, that's a valuable commodity to have as an athletic department, a stable football program with a head coach that is building something for the long run.
With synergy between coaches and athletic departments, as we know, that does not happen all the time.
No.
All right, Fitz.
No.
What do you guys have going at Go Power Cap for folks to check out?
Well, it's our Thursday, podcast day. That's up. I've got another daily delivery. I've had a couple of real bummer ones, to be real honest, about, kind of somber topics. So, student athletes, the football players, are coming back to Manhattan right now. The newcomer showed up yesterday, and that kind of ushers in summer practice and, summer conditioning. It kind of feels like football season. And this afternoon, folks, we're going to get some kickoff times from the Big 12. So a lot of little stuff going on, a lot of recruiting, got some camps going on that my Ryan Wallace and my recruiting guys are covering like crazy. So it doesn't seem, the news cycle doesn't seem to slow down much anymore, and it's kind of fun.
It doesn't. We get kick times. Do we get networks on that same announcement?
I think so. I think it's going to be the non-conference schedule. Okay. A lot of it will be ESPN Plus, but
right.
yeah, we're going to get some of that.
All right. Fitz, be good. We'll talk again next week. You can check out his work at gopowercat.com or Life of Fitz on X. All right. A lot of good stuff there. Love it. Love the trajectories of both of those athletic departments, programs, and everything happening there. Tommy, let's come back. We'll touch on this Chiefs story. I don't want to spend a ton of time on it because I'm a little confused by it, but we'll let you know what's out there. Another player arrested, and then we'll continue to look ahead to this afternoon's Royals game, which you'll hear right here on KFH. Glad to be with you here on this Thursday. It's Albracht and Castor. We'll have more Sports Daily right after this.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With more than 25 flavors, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day for half-price cups of tea. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy. We have more than 25 flavors. Come try them all for free. have more than 25 flavors. Come try them all for free.
Facebook, on YouTube, and on X. You can also listen to the audio stream live on the Odyssey app. Glad to have you with us here today. So let me get you the news of what happened with another Chiefs player yesterday. A player I had not heard of before yesterday, practice squad player Isaiah Buggs. There are 2 misdemeanor warrants for him in Tuscaloosa County, Alabama, on charges of cruelty to dogs in the 2nd degree. The court documents say that police received a report that 2 dogs were being left on a back porch of a home being rented by Buggs. Officers and animal control found a pit bull and a Rottweiler in a screened-in black porch. One of those dogs had to be euthanized. It appeared they were malnourished, had no access to food or water. Buggs' agent fired back, said that they deny the charges and alleged his client is a victim of an ongoing subversive campaign to force the closure of a hookah lounge that Buggs owns in Tuscaloosa. Quote, under no circumstance does Mr. Buggs condone the mistreatment of any animal. The dogs at issue did not belong to him, and he was unaware they remained at the property in question. They're saying that they are, he said the city of Tuscaloosa, quote, used the threat of pursuing and publicizing both of the allegations filed today in these arrests as leverage against Mr. Buggs by offering to drop and not pursue them in exchange for his voluntary surrender of a business license. They said he has been basically that they're messing with him. They don't want this hookah lounge, it sounds like. They want him to pull that. And so they've used these things. They've come up with these things to put pressure on him. This is strange, so I'm not real sure what to do with this story. There is a very clear charge made and a very clear and precise defense against that from Buggs's camp. I don't really know who he is anyway. He's not a big contributor to the Chiefs thus far. He's been in the league a little while. But, you know, we've got the Rashee Rice situation. You've got the Wanya Morris situation and Godric situation, both arrested for marijuana. This becomes another one for the Chiefs in an offseason where they just can't seem to get out of the way of these things. And so it is what it is. It's another potential distraction for the Chiefs. We'll see. I don't want to, because there are a ton of unusual circumstances surrounding this story. Obviously, animal cruelty is a very serious thing and a very serious charge, and something that, especially in the NFL, is sensitive to. So we'll see. We'll see how this plays out. It is a strange situation if he's really in that sort of a battle with the city of Tuscaloosa about a business, and like this is like drama television kind of stuff with this case. But that has happened. It's another one. Wanted to put that out there for the Chiefs. So keep an eye out on that. We'll see. This is as far as what it means for the Chiefs. I think they'll just say what they always say, and what they probably should say, especially now, is just that they'll let the legal process work itself out, and then they'll see what happens. Meanwhile, the work on the field for the Chiefs sort of continues across the league, really, and they just keep chugging away despite all these distractions away from the football itself at trying to play football and win a 3rd straight Super Bowl. And it is just another thing on the list that is not football that they have to worry about now. And I don't think you're going to get into a situation like you have with some of the other more high profile decisions. But it is just, it's potentially something that's out there. All right. We mentioned that NBA draft deadline, and we mentioned what it meant for KU and K-State. There were some other big names that came back. Caleb Love is back with Arizona. Mark Sears is back with Alabama. Those are 2 big-time players. Sears in Alabama had a couple of these guys coming back. Memphis, as it pertains to Wichita State, lost a lot of players, and they lose, potentially what some guys or some people say could be the preseason player of the year, David Jones. He's going to stay in the draft, and they've already lost John L. Davis to Arkansas. And then Chris Youngblood, who I think is a little less high profile. But Love coming back is a big deal. I'm trying to see. Okay, so it's UConn. That's what I was looking for. So UConn gets Alex Caravan back, I believe, because they already deal with some other losses. So can they maintain it? I don't know. JT Toppin is at Texas Tech. I'm just going down a list here of names that might ring a bell as he comes back for, I believe he's back at Tech. So that's another big, that's a big one for them. There were names all over this, and this decision, it's getting interesting. We got news yesterday that the transfer portal window could be shrinking. So like it could start later and end earlier, I think. You guys know that I am a pretty big proponent of what the athletes need. The portal window is a little crazy. Should never be allowed to enter that portal. I don't think before the season ends. I mean, if you want to do it 2 weeks, I think it's into the second round of the NCAA tournament. So if I understood the proposal, it's basically after the first weekend of the NCAA tournament. I don't know why they can't just say we can't do any portaling until after the tournament is finished. Sorry, like we should not be giving advantages to the teams that get bounced from the NCAA tournament early, or make coaches try to have to worry about this stuff while they're still actively trying to coach a team to a championship. I don't think we should ever have any portaling done before the completion of a season. And in football, that might mean until after the championships played, and I'd be fine with that. And you'd never be able to, to police and stop the things from happening anyway, even if you said they can't. But I don't like that portaling happens while a season is still being played. Outside of that, I'm generally fine with all of it. But this college basketball one has gotten interesting because you get this collision of the draft and the portal, and the draft deadline has become, well, it's become a pretty big deal. Remember, Zach Edey made a decision to come back. I mean, Caleb Love, that's as much star power as there is in college basketball, makes a big decision to come back. Johnny Furphy was a big decision. He stays in. Like, that's become a pretty big date on the college basketball calendar. So, it's just something that we'll continue to watch. But those are the latest. A lot of big decisions made yesterday. But again, just to recap, if you're jumping in, for K-State, we watch Arthur Kaluma. Don't think he's going to come back to Manhattan, but it's on the table now as he pulled himself out of the draft. Johnny Furphy stays in the draft. And for KU, the other name to watch, Jackson Robinson. I can't tell that anybody knows what he's decided to do. I really can't. I think he didn't announce anything, so I don't think people at this point know what he decided to do. Whether he's whether he's staying in the draft or if he's going to transfer out of BYU, return to BYU. Like all these fan bases, Kentucky fans really want to know. KU fans really want to know. I think BYU fans really want to know. Or he just stays. So we'll keep an eye out on that and see if he really is somebody that might come into KU.
I've heard the transfer portal referred to kind of as a carousel. Anymore, I'm starting to think of it more like musical chairs. So many people leaving, so many people moving around, so many people deciding to come back, and then other people needing to stay away from spots and moving around. It's going to be murder on anybody trying to keep track of, who's going where and what's going to wind up here. I don't know. It makes it a little bit more confusing, but it also makes it more interesting, I guess.
I agree. It gives it this off season. I know we don't like it, and I don't love it. By the way, I mean, I love that it's out there because I think the opportunity is important.
Yeah.
I don't love having to try to keep up with it. But again, and I've said this forever, there's never been a better opportunity for a 1-year turnaround than there is now in college sports with the transfer portal. Teams can get it turned around in a year. We're going to see K-State be really good, I think, next year because they brought in a lot of talented players. We're going to see KU can be back to a national championship contender because they were able to bring in a bunch of different players. That's just the reality of it. Now, keeping those players becomes the next important piece. Some teams are better at that than others, but just a part of the game now. I don't think Right now, I don't think anybody dislikes the game. When you really put it into like, do you watch? Are you still rooting for your team? I think everybody's doing that the same. It's just different than what we're always used to.
Yeah.
But that also doesn't mean, Jad, I don't think that you can't make it better. And getting the date that it starts right is important. It starts too early now. There's nothing wrong with looking and tinkering and tweaking. The freedom is important, but now we need to get it under control, because you still need, you're still trying to run an organization here. You're still trying to, it doesn't make any sense that coaches have to worry about this and teams have to worry about this while they're still actively playing toward a championship. That's ridiculous. You don't want to, you don't need that. So just tinker, tweak, get it better. That was out there yesterday, that proposal. And in basketball, especially, you get this draft decision thing smashed right in the middle of the transfer portal. So now you have these situations where players pull out of the draft, but they're in the portal. So where are they going? I'd like to see it done a little quicker. That would be about my only, like the window be smaller, I guess is what I'm saying, on both ends.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back and we'll get you primed up for this Royals outing, which begins in a little less than an hour and a half. Pasquantino in the lineup. That's a big thing for the Royals, that he's not going to miss more time, thankfully. And they get a chance to split a series here. So we'll get into all of that. A roster move made by the Royals that we'll tell you about. It's all coming for you as we roll forward on Sports Daily.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With more than 25 flavors, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite, or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day for half-price cups of tea. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy. have more than 25 flavors. Come try them all for free.
Alex for winning our HTO giveaway, free iced tea and free coffee. Appreciate everybody for participating. Again, we're going to have a way to text and do that here pretty quick. So keep an eye out for that. And we'll have a lot of fun, different ways to win prizes here on the show. All right. So getting you ready for the Royals, there's been some news here. Confirmed, Vinny Pasquantino is batting third. He is playing DH. So that's good news. Brady Singer, however, has been scratched from this game. He's apparently sick, so he will not make the start today. I don't know what that does to the rotation in general, but getting called up then is Daniel Lynch. Carlos Hernandez is optioned down to AAA. He's pitched a bunch lately, probably just that they know they may not use him a little bit for the next while. So he goes down. Daniel Lynch gets called up. He will immediately make that start. And look, the Royals have a big game today, right? They've got to get this game done to split this series, and it will be a big deal. And now they have Daniel Lynch on the mound and not Brady Singer. We wonder about Lynch's role on this team. At least I do, right? What is he for this team this year? Is he this? Is he a spot starter when they need it? Is he a guy they could potentially turn into a bullpen piece, which is what I'm most intrigued by? But I do think as we look at this happening right now on this day, it is important to remember that depth matters on a team. Couple of good reminders in the last 2 or 3 days. Vinny Pasquantino goes down. So it's good to see him back today. But what if he went down? What are you going to do for depth there? So we wonder about that. And then now as we get the news that Brady Singer will not make the start today, that he's sick, and Daniel Lynch gets called up to make the start, it's like, okay, Tommy, is Lynch, like, what is his role? And I'm intrigued by some of these guys becoming bullpen pieces potentially, but having depth in the rotation is important. Good reminder, and Daniel Lynch being able to pop up and make this start is probably his best use of service, I think, for the Royals.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised. I didn't know that was happening until just now.
It just came down. They've just put the lineups out and made the announcement essentially that Singer's sick. He's sick, so he's not making the start. They made a roster move. Lynch gets called up. He's going to just step up immediately and make the start. The
good thing is that Daniel Lynch, in a very small sample size this season for the Royals, has pitched pretty well. And it's been a nice revelation, I think. he hasn't been at a point to where he can break into the rotation, because overall that rotation for Kansas City is really, really good. And he's probably on the definitely on the outside looking in. But in a spot start situation, if he can come over from Omaha, I mean, that's the way to do it. And, in the 2 games that he's pitched so far this year, 7 shutout innings, 2 hits, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts. So in the very small sample size with the Royals earlier this season, when he was called up, he made the most of it for sure. And hopefully he can do that again today.
That game goes at 12:10. You'll get coverage, I believe, beginning here at 12. So you only get an hour of Rome today and then this game. There's some urgency here. I do think there's some urgency here. You got to split this series. And you got to split this series if you can. And it's unfortunate that you didn't get the Reagans game. Now you get this strange opportunity. Hey, offense, why don't you get the rotations back here? They got, they're dealing with a couple of things. Let's see if the offense can pick it up a little bit and pick up where they left off yesterday. They're going up against Chris Paddock. So Paddock has been, he's been interesting this year because his numbers in totality, and I believe he has a start against the Royals. He does not. So his numbers in totality don't look great, right? 4.39 ERA, meh. But I'm going to tell you, he's had like a bad start, and he was off to a really bad start to start the year. And then he sort of got it in a groove. And other than his first, 3 starts of the year, he's been pretty good outside of one game. So there's a chance he comes out and gives them quality innings. He's a veteran. He can get deep into a game on you a little bit. So it's not some overwhelming pitching matchup. I'm gonna pull up here real quick. I think we have time, and I wonder if the markets have reacted to Daniel Lynch being on the mound for the Royals here as they've made that announcement. Right now, the Royals are plus money, plus 135. The over/under on this game is 8.5 runs. I mean, is it a game with is it an over game, Tommy? Is it just a get Royals on plus money, see what happens? Again, opportunity here today without Brady Singer. I did not see what the line was before the Lynch injury, before the Singer illness, I should say, the Singer scratch. So I don't know how much it moved, but it's a plus 135 now on that money line. Paddock's gettable. They paid yesterday on the money line. I know that was Seth Lugo, and it's a very different scenario today, but do we go back to that well with the Royals today?
Well, I mean, the line did change quite a bit, obviously, with the news of Brady Singer just in the last few minutes. It looks like before, the Twins were getting plus money. It was very close to even.
Oh, wow.
It was very close to even. Like the Twins, the last I looked a couple of hours ago, they were at plus 108. So you're really talking like right at even money, for the most part there. But the Royals were minus 126 before the Brady Singer news. So, it has shifted. Obviously, now the Royals are the dogs in this game, and I get it. I mean, I understand why, but at the same time, I actually feel okay about taking the Royals on the money line with the plus money because of the fact that Daniel Lynch has pitched pretty well in the 2 games that he's been at the big league level this year. So it wouldn't necessarily scare me away, although I do know like it's quick. It's a quick turnaround, for Daniel Lynch. And who knows how long, like this could have been a last night thing, that Brady Singer was like, look, guys, I don't feel good. Get ready because we might have to make a change. And they probably put Daniel Lynch on notice at that point. So it might be really quick notice for us. It may not have been that way, for the actual Royals, but I feel okay about taking them on the money line today and getting plus money with Daniel Lynch in that spot start. And knowing, by the way, that the Royals have the impetus here to really get a series split. I mean, I do think it's that important for them to get that done against this divisional matchup. So I'm on board with that.
Lynch has not been great in AAA. He's got like a 4.70 ERA, but he's got 7 scoreless innings in the bigs. I might just for fun. I'm not advocating this. I'm not saying, this is a play. It's plus money on a good team. I'll take a swing at it in a pitching matchup that's not overwhelming either direction. I'll take plus money on the Royals. Why not? They paid yesterday. I'll be in the green either way. So we'll take a little on the Royals today. The over-under, I think, is the other appetizing one, but that always gets just a little bit dicey for me in baseball. I have a hard time with baseball over-unders, but we'll take a swing at the Royals on a plus money, plus 135 in a game that, boy, if they can get this game, you feel pretty good. You get to come back home, you get to play a few against the Padres, and then here we go. Get ready. Game on. Day off. They need that day off, boy. And maybe that's how they reshuffle the rotation. Maybe this allows them to get Lugo Reagans both in that Guardians series. Maybe there could be good that comes out of this. We'll take a look at that after today. I'm not sure how sick. So we don't have any insight on the Singer illness. Hopefully that's not long term. But we'll keep an eye on it. All right, we'll come back. We'll get you apprised of what's on the rest of the day next on Sports Daily.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea. With more than 25 flavors, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day for half-price cups of tea. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy. We have more than 25 flavors. Come try them all for free.
All right, that's it for us. Thanks for being here. Again, Royals baseball comes your way after an hour of Jim Rome. Then we'll pick up Infinity Sports Network programming after that. We will be back tomorrow. Glad to be here with you. We'll recap this Royals game. We'll get you ready for the next home series and keep you apprised of everything else happening out there today. Tommy, enjoy the Thursday afternoon here.
Yeah, stay dry out there today. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
For Chad, for Tommy, I'm Jacob. We'll see you then.